Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining today's session on the preparation of UAE and Oman e-invoicing as a preparatory webinar. We wanted to disseminate the knowledge as an organization together, Reinbrook and compliance have acquired so far in this area. We welcome all of you with sincere gratitude and thank you very much for your time for this knowledge dissemination session. We would take you through the length and breadth of what we have learned so far from a e-invoicing perspective. We will take you through what's happening in the UAE. We will take you through the Oman tax laws and how this is going to be taken care. Not that people are not doing it today. Both United Arab Emirates and Oman tax filing is happening, but in a retrospective way. Year end of or a financial year end, people do a tax returns, but it happens in a little regressive way. But progressive way will be a proactive, immediate, instantaneous filing. That's what the Emirate and the Sultanate is mandating with a time-tested people digital network. That's what the authorities are laying out. So we will do a deep dive today with respect to the UAE and Oman structure. We will take you through in length and breadth. Um, we would welcome this session to be more interactive, and we would be glad to answer questions from your side. So feel free to type in questions in the Q&A window. We would park the session for 30 minutes, and remaining 30 minutes would be question and answers. If there is a case where we are not able to take more questions, we would come back to you one-on-one, and we will address your queries. That's a commitment from our side to you. And wish you most and more. Everybody's keen to know what's happening on the invoicing front. Very successfully, PayPal-powered network has been rolling out in different parts of the world, namely Malaysia most recently. Before that, GCC, there was a case in Saudi where Zatka was implemented, not so exhaustive like a five-corner model that is mandated here. It was a different model in Saudi. So UAE is taking a different model. Following the footsteps, Oman will take cue from Saudi as well as UAE, and they are adhering to standards, best practices from both countries, and they would be laying down their own framework for e-invoicing governance. That's the plan. And we would take you through length and breadth on each of these countries, how they are planning to set this up. Um, my name is Srikant. I am heading sales for Reinbruka for GCC and Africas. I have close to 3 decades of experience in IT delivery and IT sales. Very clear orientation towards business, and large digital transformation is my strength, and taking care of larger contract management as well. That is my skill. Today, I am joined with Hari. Hari is the CEO and co-founder of Compliance. Hari, brief intro about yourself, please.
Thank you, Shri, for the warm intro. Myself, Hari Krishnan, founder CEO of Compliance. We've been into tax technology for more than 4 years now. We've done several e-invoicing implementations across different parts of the world. Looking forward to this webinar with Shri. Yeah, we can get started, Shri.
Thank you, Hari. So we will take you through multiple questions. It will be a Q&A kind of a model. So I would be moderating the session with Hari today. Largely, the talking part will be done by Hari, and questions would be from our side. So that is the reason I said whatever questions I can ask on behalf of you to Hari as well. So we will start with the initial introduction. What is e-invoicing, and how this impacts each business in this part of the world? Can you please throw some light on this, Hari? We would discuss mostly what is done on the model that is being
Yeah,
mandated by government
yeah,
in United
yeah,
Arab Emirates and Oman. That would
yeah.
be our individual approach actually. So over to you, Hari. Please take it through
Sure,
the
Shri.
model. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So e-invoicing fundamentally, it is a indirect tax compliance, that is introduced by government authorities, especially tax authorities from different parts of the world. So here in the UAE and Oman, we have the Ministry of Finance and FTA jointly in the UAE, introducing a new real-time tax reporting, specifically indirect tax reporting. So that is what we holistically call e-invoicing as, right? And how it is going to impact businesses is what we are going to see. Like there is a fundamental shift from a retrospective filing model to a real-time filing model. With the PEPAL adoption coming here in the GCC region, both in UAE and Oman, we are going to see drastic changes in the ways how businesses were issuing invoices and handling returns. And more will be focusing on the five corner later, Sri.
Fantastic. Thanks for the brief introduction on the e-invoicing. We would probably cover a little bit elaborate manner on the e-invoicing model. UAE,
Yeah,
largely it is going to be followed on the Oman as well. So, as you
right.
rightly said, it's going to be a five-corner model powered by
Yeah,
PayPal network, and more than a point-to-point communication, it's going to be a network through which the digital documents basically go beyond the AR invoice alone. So there's going to be multiple document types that's going to be taken care in the whole thing. And that's
right,
how this model is going to flow, if I'm right, Harry.
right, Sri.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What we will do now is a bit of a technical deep dive as how this is going to be done, because our audience is certainly going to be people who are working quite deeply into the tax area, the finance area, and also IT heads, IT managers, and executives on the IT side. They would be very keen to see how this is going to be impacting their preparations for e-invoicing. So we would do a bit of a deep dive, and I would request you to elaborate in detail the five corner model that PEPAL is mandating, or rather, the Ministry of Finance and federal tax authorities, specifically for United Arab Emirates, how they are going to be mandating. So I would let you take this from this point, Harry, specific to the five corner based model.
sure, Sri. Yeah. Before we jump into the five corner model, I'll give a glimpse of what are the different e-invoicing models that are adopted, in different parts of the world. Especially, we have Saudi Arabia, which is which has already implemented e-invoicing a couple of years back, and there is successful rollout that had happened. So fundamentally, there are multiple models, uh, multiple e-invoicing models. To name a few, we have a three-corner model where we have the buyer and the seller in the picture, and then there comes the third party, the third corner called the tax authority in most cases. So this is the most simple model, and then we have a more advanced model than the three-corner model called the four-corner model. You see here in the picture, we have a five-corner model. Right. So the five corner model is the by far the most advanced model, which includes PEPAL delivery mechanism. Um, you know, uh, we'll talk about PEPAL and how the corner two and corner three is communicating the invoice with between one another. All these things in detail. But before we go to that aspect, Shreya, I would like to touch on the seller to FTA transaction flow, and then the buyer to FTA flow, and then also how invoice is being received by the buyer when they purchase something, right? So what happens here is we have ASP called accredited service provider, who could be compliance. Once we if we become a ASP, we'll be able to become corner two. So what happens here is the seller has multiple systems for issuing invoices, right? It could be ERP system, or it could be it could be multiple ERP systems from which transactions are being generated. What happens is with the five corner model that's being implemented here, every ERP system will have to establish a connection with the FTA through a ASP, that is corner two, and the system becomes IT system, ERP system here becomes the corner one. So corner one to two is typical, integration that's similar to the KSA integration. Corner two to corner three is where the actual transaction happens. It is a seller to buyer, handshake of invoice. And then we have from corner two, the tax authority, FTA here, where the ASP is responsible for sending the invoice that the seller generated in their ERP to the government. So this is where the actual tax reporting happens, right? And then we have corner three, who's the counterparty who's purchasing the goods or services from the seller, the buyer. So the buyer will receive the invoice through the PayPal network directly in their ERP system. So it is the system to system communication. So that is the shift that we are seeing here with the DCTC model stream.
So typically, it avoids a lot of paper printing, making sure
Yeah,
this has been received to the buyer. So seller makes an
yeah,
invoice and he pushes to the ASP, and the whole system takes care that it's delivered to the buyer after validation.
right,
Due reporting happens to the authorities. So more than a simple electronic invoicing, PayPal powers the whole thing as a digital transaction network wherein different
yeah,
documents are going from point to point with clear validation from government authorities adhering to certain rules and regulations. And definitely it helps in green go green initiative. A lot of carbon credits and other things are happening in terms of saving papers, so on and so forth. That's another way of looking at it from a carbon credit system. People need not spend unnecessary expenses on the paper that they print.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Right.
sounds good. So typically, yeah, as I realized, there is a simpler transaction point-to-point communication on Zatka, wherein the seller raises the invoice through a validation through a portal that
Yeah.
becomes a corner one typically, and it goes to straight the Fatura portal. Wherein here there are multiple channels. There is one tax authority. The other thing is through a messaging network. It goes through
Yeah.
a receiver's what do you call ASP, and the messaging goes to the buyer. So automatically it goes. And probably you might want to touch up this point as well, Hari. We spoke about, say, let's assume we spoke about AR invoice. Now,
Yeah.
typically, a similar converse situation, a buyer may issue
Yeah.
AP. So, can you please take that as well at a converse situation of this? That would be helpful for our audience. Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. So no, so far I was explaining from a seller perspective.
Yeah.
So from a buyer perspective, as a buyer, currently, if you see, before e-invoicing is implemented, as of today, I'll be issuing, or I mean, I will be receiving all my supplier invoices as PDF files. Most cases it's PDF files through emails dropped to the account payables team, right? Or the finance team that's going to handle the account payables. So what happens is, the account payable, the AP invoice that's coming into the company is manually entered into the accounting system that we use, right? In most cases, it is the ERP. But with the PEPAL system here, Sri, if you see, corner three acts as the receiving end, right? So if my supplier is also on the PEPAL network, and if they are sending the invoice to me, I will be able to receive my invoice directly in my ERP system. Right. So that
Yeah.
so that is the change that we are seeing here. So AP process fundamentally is getting disrupted, right, with the new invoicing model coming in.
Perfect. And just for an additional, add-on, I would say there are meta service locators or the repositories wherein
Yeah,
you will be able to locate those IDs of buyers as and when they are onboarded, and through the directory of systems you would be able to get these messages passed from point to point. So they're going to be foolproof and seamless integration between seller to buyer and vice versa. That's how I
right.
presume it's going to happen. Yeah. Good. I think that is a fantastic insight. We would take questions if there are any as we move forward, and we will do a deep dive if there are questions. Otherwise, this is a little broader topic, then we can do
Yeah,
a conversation technically as well. So, those who are tech enthusiasts, I can put a technology person's hat and say this is nothing but a soap on top of HTTP, to be very precise. Applicability statement 4, that's a standard on which the whole thing is developed. A very lightweight
yeah,
area with a pinned XML. That's a communication signature
yeah,
that goes from point to point, if I may add this. And we would go to the implementation challenges and solutions, because now we understand how this works. To a large extent, there is a concealment of this messaging and all other things. So what users typically look at is a facade or a single window entry from their ERP. Yeah, I'm ready with my AR invoice. What do I do now? That's going to be a simple question from the finance head or a IT head. Now they would come with a pointed questions. What do we do on the implementation challenges, and what kind of solutions do we have? Considering the context during the first waves, there could be larger organizations with legacy systems and more than one system. I can typically look at heterogeneous systems where they have lots and lots of systems within the organization. Actually, maybe 4 to 5 systems we can say minimum they will have, and what is the impact on accounts receivable and account payable process, and how to manage change for this from a typical implementation point of view. Hari, can you please throw a light on this from your Malaysian implementation experience? Because I understand this is something simulated or taken
Yeah.
after the cue from Malaysia. So we would really love to hear from your experience on Malaysia.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. So Malaysia is where one other country where we see the five corner PEPAL model practically being used, right? So since you mentioned about the implementation challenges, when there are multiple systems that needs to be integrated with the common system, right? So there comes there are a lot of different challenges from different perspectives, right? So one is from finance point of view, what are the different existing processes that is going to get changed? So that will be the first question. Second thing is, how are we going to ensure the mandatory data is being met on every invoice in every different system that the business is using, right? So here in only one change, Sri, here we don't have the POS in picture. There might be minor cases where B2B invoices also get generated in POS systems with certain businesses rarely doing that. But majority of the cases, let's consider here we have multiple ERP systems for a single company or multiple company with sister concerns that needs to undergo a implementation for e-invoicing, right? So firstly, what we need to look at is the data availability in the existing systems. Are we good enough to meet the mandatory data? So that is the first part, right? And the second part is the technical integration that needs to be taken care of. Like, uh, you see, like every ERP system will have its own AP and AR workflow, right? With different approval processes or different internal processes, right?
Yeah.
And the team is already trained and a task to go through that particular process, right? With the PEPAL coming in here, Sri, like the AP process will undergo a large change because of the automated receiving that's happening. So, I can like put it this way. What happens is once the company receives the invoice from the supplier, they take it and then they get a manual approval before they ingest it into the ERP, right? But here, what happens is the invoice lands into the ERP. So it has to go through an internal approval, taking that as the starting point, right? So if there are AP processes that are written on top of ERPs, we'll have to look at it, review if this is going to be the same, or
Yeah.
should we touch and refine it. This is going to be case to case because every company has a different AP process, right? So this is with respect to the AP. Again, the same is with the AR also. How we have been delivering invoices to the customer is changing, right? So we might have been using email or automated email sending that is enabled on the ERP system,
Yeah.
which will now be replaced with the PEPAL ID. So account receivable teams will have to look for or get the PEPAL ID data of their customers. So PEPAL ID is the identification for sending the invoice to their correct, their proper customer. Right.
Okay.
So that will be another change, Sri. So the current AR process, which looked for email IDs to send invoices, will now have to record the PayPal IDs to send invoices. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting because the
Yeah.
automation softwares will also undergo a lot of changes because currently,
Yeah.
AP automations that every customer is doing will undergo some massive changes actually. And
Yeah.
similarly, SO
Yeah.
automation also will undergo some changes.
Yeah.
because it's going to be PayPal ID driven. So that's going to be very interesting. It's very exciting, actually. Yeah,
Right.
that's
Right.
fantastic, Harry. That's fantastic. So we will look at the complexity basically because as I kind of touched upon this topic,
Hmm. Hmm.
initial phases are going to be for heterogeneous systems within
Hmm.
larger organizations. So that is
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the dealing of complexity will happen. Multiple
Yeah.
ERPs, legacy systems, how they will work with e-invoicing solutions. Because if you look at a conglomerate, they would have been started with very, very primitive
Yeah.
softwares and graduated over 25, 30 years. Maybe they will have
Yeah.
most modern ERP today. But some of their old businesses still could be on legacy systems. So that's a scenario
Yeah.
most likely we would end up dealing in the initial phase, is my gut feeling, Harry. So can you
Yeah.
please throw some light on this direction as well?
Sure, Sri. Yeah, yeah. I mean, having been touched that and implemented in similar, landscape, I think like I can point out some, something that businesses have to be very cautious of before getting into the implementation, right?
Yeah,
And also as a service provider, which we look at it as a checklist, right?
yeah,
So, what comes with multiple systems is, say, a brew company with five sister concerns using three different ERP systems, right? It might be SAP or Epicor or any other system, right? So these systems, the data, the current data that's available in the system will have to be audited first. So that will be the first task to ensure customer data enrichment. And second thing is how we are going to orchestrate this data to the ASP, right? So how we are going to set up those workflows whenever the AP invoice is, AR invoice is created, or whenever a AP invoice is received, how the AR invoice is pushed to the ASP here, and let's assume compliance is the ASP. So as ASP, we will have to integrate with with these three ERP systems, and then pick those invoices and orchestrate it in a way that it's pushed to the government in the right manner. Do all the pre-validation checks, do the transformations, and with PEPAL coming here, we'll have to do a lot of internal data transformations. There is XML payload that is being pushed in Pint AE format that you mentioned, right?
yeah.
So there are lots of heavy lifting that's going to happen. But what businesses have to look at is how the data is going to be captured properly in the ERP, how it is going to be staged before it is sent to the government authority. So these are the two critical system, pointers at this moment that we'll have to look at. Sri.
Fantastic. That's fantastic, Harry. Looks very good and exciting to work with multiple
Yeah,
ERPs and how the legacies needs to undergo some kind of a transformation. Uh,
yeah,
Most importantly, what I would probably request on behalf of our audience is the strategic considerations and service provider selection. When I say it's like accredited service provider selection, I would say that's what it intends, because each of this business is going to be very critical, and compliance per se, the statutory regulatory requirements are going to be very stringent. So as a customer, what is going to be the strategic considerations to identify the right provider or the
mhm,
right system integrator. And probably with
yeah.
that you can touch upon the e-invoicing and the impact, specifically input and output tax filing, because that's going to be a little strategic consideration actually, because finance is involved, regulatory parties involved. So that's something we would probably like to hear from you.
Right, Shay. So, if you see, e-invoicing is actually the indirect tax compliance or real-time indirect tax reporting to the FTA, right? So, what happens is over time, once you become e-invoicing compliant, once the e-invoicing system goes live, the e-invoicing system will become the new source of truth for the tax filing data. It is the ERP is ERP. The current tax report in the ERP will no longer be valid. We'll have to rework on it to make it valid so that the e-invoicing data becomes a source of truth. So from that aspect, Sri, as a strategic move, businesses will have to look out for service providers who can also provide the input and output tax filing reports in a clear manner based on the e-invoicing data on a monthly frequency, on a quarterly frequency, on different frequencies that the business require, right? So this is one pointer that business will have to look out when they evaluate solutions, right?
Fantastic. So that's more like a queue. It's like a very pointed question. The portal that we offer as a solution will have an ability to do
Yeah,
a tax returns filing. So far today they are doing through another source. It's going to be one single shop or probably one single provider wherein you provide ARAP, automations, and you provide the tax inputs to the government, and probably the same provides you input output credit, and every single buyer can probably do a tax filing through the portal. That's how it looks to me in a broader sense. Am I right in looking at that, Hari?
no, absolutely right, Sri.
Yeah,
That's how it works. Yeah,
that's fantastic. It's going to be one single shop, I can say, one stop solution we can offer
yeah,
for the customers. Fantastic, Hari. Thank you so much. We would move on to this question. I think it got mixed up with the previous one.
mm,
How would a customer look at coming to us? I can say we can say compliance is an ASP. Ryan Bruca is a system integrator. We work together, and that probably is an answer. But I would let you do that as a
yeah,
customer. Why would and how they would choose an ASP? Forget they work with us or they work with anybody. The key consideration as a customer, what should they look forward to? What are all the factors should the business basically prioritize? Because in this case, it's going to be corporate tax or probably the tax department within the larger group. They need to prioritize certain requirements while they are finalizing the ASP to
yeah,
avoid, I can say, precisely to stop operational disruptions, because the fines are going to be heavy, and if someone is not ready to comply this within the specified date, it's going to be a headache. So
yeah.
let's put our experience to the table, so that if I was a customer or if you are a customer, how would you choose an ASP? Would be a very honest question from my side to you, Hari.
Right, Sri. So, I mean, as I said, the first touch point is the data. So, we'll have to, one criteria is we'll have to look at the ASP's ability to do a gap assessment, a detailed gap assessment on the existing data to ensure if the existing data can be prepared or enriched to meet the 50 mandatory fields requirements, right? So that is one perspective, and there is another perspective as a business. I'll have to look at the ASP's ability or the experience with similar customers in my industry. If I'm from retail, I'll have to look out for retail use cases, whether the ASP has done in the past, and what is the track record. Right? And third is the volume of transactions that the ASP can handle at any given high traffic time, right? So that is again will also extend to exceptional customer support. How far the ASP can extend customer support, because e-invoicing is not something that is going to come and go. That's not a one-time activity. It is going to stay forever. There's going to be a consistent monthly activity for the finance team. So they'll have to carefully look at the ASP's ability to support, post go live. It's not just the go live alone during that. Then the last criteria I would say is the security part. So how secure is the middleware system that is going to handle the transactions? So already, FTA is doing a process and has a process to select or accredit the ASPs. Partially, there is a security requirement as well that ASPs will have to meet. But from a business perspective, we'll also have to look at the accreditations or the certifications the ASPS. For example, I could say compliance has variety of certificates, including the ISO, SOC 2, and GDPR security certificates. And these are some examples that businesses will have to look out for. So these are the criteria I would point out, Sri, while choosing ASP.
No, fantastic. That's probably I would say a major ones, and love to hear that from you. I would like to add one point there, Hari. Most likely it's a journey, and I would
Yeah,
look at it like a journey. And post go live implementation, production support, if there are issues or any support requests that you get, somebody should be there on the other end to pick the phone, and we together we have built a omni-channel
Yeah,
support network, and that's probably the
yeah.
most important thing for every customer, because you do a phone call, somebody's there to pick that up, and they should be able to service you then and there. That's a key thing, and without that, anything that we put on the table is going to be a bit of a meaningless. So long-term relationship, and this is a journey. The ability of the ASP and system integrator together to give you a comprehensive support framework after you go live would also be a critical factor that you must choose a ASP. That would be my experience so far. Hari, would you agree on that as well?
No, no, I'll completely agree on that, Sri. Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. And probably we would take some questions today. We have a few questions. Some questions have come on the what do you call the chat and QA model. I would first take the questions from chat, then we can go to the QA questions. Um, Somebody was asking if this recording can be shared. Yes, we will do that. This is also made available on the YouTube
Mm,
stream. I'll
yeah.
come to a question. We have interesting question. How will e-invoicing impact large-scale retail operations that deal with high invoice volumes and multiple point of sale systems? Yeah, Hari, over to you. Probably, if there is something required, I can add here.
Right, Shane. So at the moment, we only have B2B and B2G transactions. It is business to business and business to government transactions being mandated as part of this e-invoicing mandate that is about to be rolled out by July 2026, right? So B2C transactions are not mandated at the moment, right? A future mandate is expected, but it's not mandated at the moment. So
Yeah.
fundamentally, the retail businesses deal with large volume B2C transactions, right? And there is significant amount of B2B transactions also, might be B2G also. What you'll have to look at is the what are the different systems as part of the retail operations that you have where B2B or B2G transactions are being generated, and what is the volume of those transactions. You must include all the different types of transactions, right from invoice, credit note or debit note, or even further we have nominal supply transactions also, and then see the impact on those systems.
Fantastic, Hari. Thank you. We have one more question. Is the e-invoicing process mandated by the government in Emirates, same as in Saudi Arabia, or are there key differences in regulatory requirements? I think we touched upon this topic in detail. If there are
Yeah.
any further questions, feel free to drop a note. We will take this forward. We go to the next question. In case of businesses who use the handheld computers to deliver invoices through van sales systems, is there any requirement to make it online or request the FTA systems for any unique number, print it and give it to the customer? I presume this also talks about a retail model actually. See, basically, the way you need to look at it is your registration number, the category of business, that determines what business you are in. So even if you have a B2B business and you do a van-based delivery, then you will have to undergo certain regulations that is mandated by the tax authorities. However, if you are a pure play retailer at this point, you are not part of this particular requirement as explained by Hari in the previous point. So that's how I
Yeah.
would like to take that. One question, very interesting question came actually from Mustafa. With the e-invoicing system, once an invoice has been sent to the client and registered with the government, is it still possible to make amendments? It's a very interesting question, actually. Yeah, Hari, you want to take this?
Yeah. Yeah, it is possible. Should we have, the amendments go through different notes based on the amendment that you'll have to do, whether you'll have to add more, line items to add more to the total of the invoice, or you will have to remove line items or reduce the quantity. Those cases, you will have to issue a credit note or a debit note. So these are the two, transactions you will have to use to make any amendments, right? You cannot edit the existing invoice. So you'll have to make those changes using by issuing notes against
Notes.
those
Yeah.
invoices. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you, Hari. Another question: does the FTA issued an official documentation for e-invoicing implementation?
Yeah. So at the moment, Sri, we have a draft documentations issued by the FTA, and we are awaiting the final document, which will be released, which they have, we have a date and available, that is Q2 2025, end of Q2, where we can expect a final implementation document. But the Ministry of Finance has already released documents that are available in the website that you can go and refer directly, which must be considered in the draft stage. Nice.
Fantastic. We have another interesting question. In a four corner model, if the buyer does not accept the invoice, how will the system process it? It's a very typical example. What happens is in the European part of the world, when the invoice is sent to the supply, customer. So basically, there is a mandate to close the obligation within stipulated number of days. Otherwise, their credit rate will go for a toss. So that is not the case with many part of the world that we are dealing here. So typical situation where the buyer may not accept the invoice. So it's more of an operation thing, I would say, but the system will have a messaging capability to push the invoice to the buyer, basically, actually. So there is no way he can reject it. So that's going to be an operational,
Yeah.
mandate how they want to accept it or reject it. That's going to be something outside the network. We would like to take this actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the next question in five corner model. Um, is the five corner model mandatory, or can we go with other model also?
So five corner model is a mandated
Yeah,
option,
yeah,
Sri. So it's
yeah,
we cannot switch to other models.
yeah.
So yeah.
That's fine. So another question: if a company has B2G, B2B, and B2C, how is it applicable in VAT return if the natural person doesn't have the PayPal ID? That's a very
Right.
interesting question, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, once the mandate is out, the FTA expects or actually mandates all the businesses in UAE to get registered in the PayPal network. So, how PayPal ID is issued is it's through the ASP. So, the ASP will help you out getting the PayPal registration done. So, there is something called SMP or SML, which is it is a directory where all the PayPal IDs of the company is stored, which is managed by Ministry of Finance. There, the registration should happen for that company with the help of the ASP, and the ASP is actually responsible for getting the PayPal ID done. So if the PayPal ID is not available with the buyer, so if the buyer is exempted or if they are exempted or they haven't become compliant with the e-invoicing mandate, that is the only case this will be possible, right? Otherwise, it is going to be present for every company.
Yeah. I think another question is also very similar to this. Buyers are not into PayPal network. We have to go with manual or email based data transfer. So, yeah, until the whole buyer ecosystems are not there, there could be an alternate mechanism, and we will have to work around that. So, that's something we already spoke. We
Yeah.
have another interesting question. Our business has exempted sales under VAT, such as exempt suppliers or zero tax related exports. How will this be treated in e-invoicing?
All right. So there are actually 16 different transaction types that are mandated, right? That also includes export, exempted transactions and zero rated supplies. Though all these have 0% VAT rate applied on the line item, these have different e-invoicing rules actually to be followed, which the ASP will have to take care, right? But all these are mandated for e-invoicing, Sri.
Fantastic. So there's another question. I think we spoke about this, so I will skip that. Um,
Yeah.
Next one is a little bit interesting and tricky. Can you please explain how data is validated and acknowledged by the FTA within the invoicing model?
Right. So, we were actually touching this several times. To be specific, we have 50 mandatory fields as the requirement from the FTA as part of this PINT AE invoicing model, right? So the ASP will take care of actually the ASP must take care when the ASP is implementing the invoicing solution. It is the responsibility of the business also to ensure if the ASP is actually validating all the 50 mandatory fields, or there are different things. One is fundamentally availability of the 50 fields, and then there are rules on top of those 50 fields. For example, the totals will have to undergo calculation specific rules. So there are we used to run in KSA more than 400 validation rules on every invoice and from different perspectives. These are not mandated rules, but we actually do stringent validation process. We had that to ensure that invoice is 100% accepted, right? So the similar is the case here as well.
Fantastic. So we'll take another interesting question. How does e-invoicing differ from standard digital or PDF invoicing?
Yeah. So the if you see PDF invoices are not actually e-invoices. E-invoices point to the raw data on the invoice. So PDF is a format of presenting the invoice, right?
Right.
So where it is human readable, visually represented or beautified, for ease of reading.
Yeah.
Whereas the raw, I'll touch something technical. Right? There is something called XML, which is the representation of the whole invoice in its raw format. Right? It'll just have the abstract data, like invoice ID, the line items, the summary of the invoice, everything. So this XML data is what is being transacted in the whole e-invoice, a whole network, PayPal network in the form of e-invoice. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. We have another interesting question. This is something more to do from an implementation perspective. You
Mm,
mentioned there are 50 plus mandatory data fields required for e-invoicing. How can we make sure that nothing gets missed?
mm. So, first point is to do a gap assessment of the existing data before even we go to invoicing. Gap assessment, when I mean, is ensuring customer data that is available in the ERP system. Right? It might be VAT ID of the customer. It might be address details of the customer. In case if we see on address, we held multiple data requirements. Right? So here also we have similar requirements on the address of the customer, then the VAT details, and then the other details of it might be company details. So the gap assessment will help you address the data quality to ensure the first 50 mandatory fields are met. That is the first step. Second step is to have mandatory check, that is placeholder checks on every field when the invoice is getting created. Whenever the accountant or the salesperson is creating the invoice in the company, that they should not be able to post the invoice before all the data requirements are met. So this is the second step, right? So and third step is also when we have approval, we can automate certain or we can actually write certain workflows that look for all these mandatory fields, right? So these are the ways, a few ways we can ensure
Yeah,
availability of these fields, right?
fantastic. That's a great thinking, Hari. And we have one interesting question. How credit notes are issued through e-invoicing process? Maybe you can touch
Mm,
upon the type of documents
mm.
and probably that will probably give a larger coverage. Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier I mentioned there are 16 different document types that are mandated, right? So credit note, debit note, export, zero rated or nominal supply, all these in self-billing, all these fall under those 16 types that is being mandated, right? So credit note is more or less similar to the invoice that is being handled. Only difference is the credit note should have reference to the original invoice against which this it is being issued, right?
Yeah,
If you see, we had note issuance reason. So why this credit note is being issued on top of that invoice? That should be present, and then the idea of the original invoice. So these are the data level differences between
okay,
invoice and credit note stream.
fantastic. We have a bit of a technical question. We can check if this can be done, or we can also get back to him at later point of time. But let's attempt it, Hari. I will not leave it. Which SMTP
Yeah.
server or port is used for invoice delivery? I think we touched it during the discussion. It is simple SOAP, simple object access protocol on top of
Mm.
HTTP actually. So nothing more than your HTTP port actually. Secured HTTP is a communication. And yeah, Hari, you might want to touch this, or probably we can help them to do it at a firewall level stuff. Yeah,
Again, as I said, Sri, the invoice delivery
yeah,
happens on the AS4 network that is
yeah,
powered by the PayPal.
yeah,
So, we will be doing all the heavy lifting. We
yeah,
abstract all the complex layers behind the simple APIs,
yeah,
put the APIs, upfront when the ERP integration is done.
yeah.
So, there is less to worry on the technical part. That's where,
Technicalities. Yeah,
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 yeah. So typically, I can even take it because I know in what context this question is coming. Typically, before you make a posting of your AR invoice, the message basically
yeah.
gets wrapped up. All the XML fields, the 50 fields that is required, are
Yeah.
wrapped up in a typical print invoice, and this goes for validation on the
Mm,
corner. The first corner gets validated and gets pushed to the FTA and MOF. Then it comes back after validation and pushes through the PayPal network to the other corner, and through the messaging, actually, it goes to the supplier, and supplier can download this or do whatever he wants. Actually, that's how the whole thing goes. It's all abstracted on very lightweight SOAP and HTTP. So don't worry about it. You don't have to open any extra ports. Actually, with the current
yeah.
setup, you should be able to manage this, to put it simply. Yeah, I think with this we do not have any further questions. I can probably take a look at the Q&A. I think I think there are a couple of things that has come. We can take it. We have like 10 more minutes. um, as per UAE regulations, all expenses related to the import of goods and import of services must be supported by a self-issue tax invoice. In this case, how e-invoice is going to work? That is a question.
Sorry, Shri, I
I
just,
can I can read
can
it
you come in?
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
please.
per UAE regulations, all the expenses related to the import of all goods and import of services must be supported by a self-issue tax
Yeah,
invoice.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you
yeah.
touched upon this on another
Yeah.
context. Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting question. So we will take this question. Yes, please. Yeah,
Right. See. So whenever there are import transactions that the business deals with, no, it has to undergo self-billing, right? It means they'll have to issue invoice on behalf of their supplier, overseas supplier, right? It is an import transaction. So self-billing is also mandated as part of the invoicing mandates. It means if you are issuing self-issued, self-billed invoices or credit notes or debit notes, then you will have to report those data, those invoices also to the FTA. Right? It falls under the 16 transaction types that is being mandated.
yeah. It's more like a self-reporting is another category, and we should be
Yeah.
able to manage in its own workflow. I think another one is a
Mm.
little. I'm not sure how. Is there a time limit for credit note? We
Right.
Yeah,
So I mean, at the moment we don't have
Don't know. Yeah.
clear indicators on that, but
Yeah.
might be. We'll have to wait and see, right?
Yeah. We have
Yeah.
another interesting technical question. Any requirement for any cloud storage? So
Mm,
yeah, I can take this question, Hari. What happens is,
yeah.
we take this raw data, and they're all like simple data, text-based
Mm,
data, so they're not going to be heavy. And we have our
mm,
own servers who have capacity to process enormous number of invoices, probably millions and millions of invoices we have processed in our past with similar, country-based implementations in be it Malaysia, be it Saudi. So please be assured, leave that challenge with us. We know what we are doing in this part of business, and please be assured we will take care of your data volume and data growth. The model is something quite all encompassing. We wouldn't leave any headache to the customer, except for the fact we built a simple integration layer with your existing ERPs, and this will be a pipe through which the documents could be reported, routed to the larger scheme of things, and we would build that as well. So, remaining things towards the security, safety of data, reliability, disaster recovery, and all other stuffs, we would take care. Next question is very specific to Epicor, Hari, so I will take this. Uh, is Kinetic Epicor e-invoice pre-built or development need to do? Honest answer is I don't know, but we can provide you a support on that as well, because we know what are those 50 fields. Because if you look
mm,
at a typical nature of Zatka, whenever there is a localization flavor comes and
mm,
sits on top of Kinetic or any other instance of Epicor, for example, additional fields are constructed as placeholders. Say, for example, the Arabic equivalent of your supplier name, supplier tax number, so many such things gets its own due course, the placeholder. Now, as a customer, you need to build those placeholders with relevant data. Then happens the reporting. You take the data and push to the Fatura for validity. So that's how the whole thing goes. But here, in this case, we know pretty much what are all these 50 fields. So whether Epicor gives you a local version or not, it's like a straightforward stuff. We should be able to manage it ourselves. Yeah. So sorry, Hari, I took it on my side because of
no
the
worries.
Epicor thing. So we have like one more question. We are a service-based business, and our invoices generally include VAT. Since most of our clients are individuals rather than companies, do you think the e-invoicing system would be suitable for our operations?
Right. I mean, as I already mentioned, touched B2B is what is being mandated now, right? It you will have to review the nature of transactions that you're dealing with, and you'll have to decide, whatever is that falls under the mandated scheme of things that has to be posted to FD, right? So, and you'll have to take care of those B2B invoice transaction workflows.
Yeah. Thank you, Hari. We have one interesting question. Definitely, it's worth spending some time, so I'll take this. Will the
Right.
e-invoicing implementation will make it easier for AP automation? It's a very exciting question, actually, because I'm dealing with one like this. So, Hari, I will leave it to you. Then, if something is needed, I'll pitch in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, sure. So, I mean, let's come to PayPal. The sole role of PayPal or the agenda of implementing PayPal along with the tax reporting is to, increase digitalization for businesses. That's the agenda for any tax authority in different parts of the world whenever they have been implementing PayPal, right? So here, if you see, we have the five corner model, right? The DCTCE model. So fundamentally, this model pushes you towards API automation. So when we say there is system to system transaction or system to system delivery of invoices is happening, then there is obviously automation happens. I mean, there is obvious automation that's coming into picture, and the whole manual data entry workflow is removed. Right. You'll never have to ingest the supplier, the payable invoices into the ERP system. Right. So if you are considering, if you haven't implemented API automation before, then you'll have to couple this with the e-invoicing project, is what I can say. It will
Correct.
be. it will amplify the output that invoicing will give. Right?
It will augment in a very, very clear way, because
Yeah,
the PayPal ID, the directories are going to be making sure you get a valid invoice. Then you probably will have to do a check of, is it against a proper purchase order, and is the goods receipt done.
yeah,
So the three-way matching is also taken care. To some extent, some of it is already part of the process that we are doing. So some of these processes are going to be complementing your question. I love the question actually. So yeah, I think with this we probably are done for the day, and I'll just take a minute to introduce ourselves. We have a couple of questions, but we'll come back to you in person actually over a call. I'll briefly take a minute to explain what we do. Reinbrucker, we are a European company. We have offices across Europe, and we have presence in Dubai. We have three entities. We have a strong footprint in Middle East and Africa. We are a European company with a global mindset, and we have a large delivery center in Dubai, Germany, and Chennai. That's what we have, and we have a very strong set of certified professionals on the system integration side. We come with tons of ERP experience and process experience, and we work very closely with compliance to deliver you a cutting edge, e-invoicing solution. We have very strong skilled people on the project management side as well, and mostly we do services on the Epicor side. As we are a platinum partner for Epicor. We sell and we implement Epicor. Besides that, on the services side, we do provide staffing engagements on SAP, Microsoft. That's our bread and butter in terms of providing services on people. So we are able to cover a large set of ERP from an invoicing perspective, and we will be able to support you in a very clear way. That's about Reinbrucker. And Hari, would you please take compliance capability?
sure. Sure. Compliance is a global tax technology company that is headquartered in the US. We have, presence across different regions. We have operations in Southeast Asia and Malaysia, and we have presence in Middle East in KSA, and we are also expanding in UAE here as part of the UAE Oman initiative. And we have our R&D development center in India. We have been focusing on tax tech for more than 4 years. Have done successful multiple ERP integrations, complex scenarios across different transactions, be it B2B, B2G, or B2C, high volume or low volume. We have handled it all. We have, with the different models that government has implemented, we've been, doing this for a quite long time, right? And we are gearing up for this for the UAE model, UAE module as part of our offering, and we are looking forward jointly with Reinbroker to service to provide our joint solution on different set of ERPs, and yeah, and
Just
thank you
one more
everyone.
point. Yeah, one more point. The queue that's going to be taken, mostly PayPal network for UAE, and the similar thing for Oman as well. Some of the audience
Yeah,
could be from Oman, so please be assured there is no major changes for Oman. It's going to be something very similar, and we should be
yeah.
able to support it as well. Sorry, Harry, go ahead. Yeah,
No, I was just taking time to thank
yeah,
everyone
yeah,
who
absolutely.
joined
Yeah,
this webinar
yeah,
with us. And there were, these questions are, that are like that reflects that there is a lot
yeah,
that's being digested,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
Absolutely, and you are more than welcome. In case you have questions in the due course,
yeah,
feel free to write to us. We'll be happy to come back to you one on one. I would
yeah,
assure you one on one communication in case you have any questions during the journey of invoicing. We would make sure you are given utmost care to make sure the initiative is successful, and we will be doing a perfect hand holding for you. Thank you very much for your keen, attention and patience. Thank you very much for the enthusiastic participation. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks a lot.
yeah.
Thank you, Hari.
Thank you all.
Thank you, team.
Thank you,
Thank you. Bye
Sri.
bye.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye.